That should be gone tomorrow. That's one that I welded in panels, and definitely not a body man, but welded in panels and repainted indigo blue for O2 four-door crew cab. Even painted the inside. Brother made a framework for the inside because the bottom was so rotten. That front panel is actually not from this box, it's from another truck outside. 3 spots in this box where I got little pinholes from bleed through that I'm switching clears once again, but I had almost an hour in between coats on this thing and it just did not. For some reason the gases are still bleeding off through it. All right, a little bit of project. This 06 Chevy truck, replacing fenders, inner and outer rockers, cab corners, and then it's onto the box. Interesting thing I found is how that's the main cab support coming out. There's 3 of those, well actually 4. That one back there is doubled up for the rear cab support. This one's just center support. They have the rocker sits up against this edge from front to back, and I notice between the old one and the new one's shorter, of course. Everything seems to be shorter in panels, and when I put the outer rocker up here, I'll show you how that's not even formed right. But how you got to weld it to this first. Once it's all welded to that, you got to put your spot welds across here, and then this plate gets bolted down for extra support. Surprising that's in there, being it's, you know, rusty. But then this section back here, part of this is gone. This used to hang down about 2 inches. That was all rotten in there, but this is still sturdy, so I'm leaving it in there. And right now I'm tracing out, I had the inner rocker in there, and I'm tracing out where I'm going to put my spot welds, tack it in, and then fit the outer rocker in. Not even going to get to the cab support or the cab corner for a while. Most of this metal back here, this is all gone at the bottom. This stuff is all still here. Now the inner rocker used to sit like a 1/8, 3/16 of an inch from the back edge there, and I lined it up there. I left that 1/8 still in there, and it still wants to be too short in the front by about an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch. This is the new rocker. It's painted on the other side, which is going to be on the inside. This is the outside, or basically still the outside and the bottom, so I'm not going to paint this edge until the final. The old one is there. As you can see, that's pretty rotted out, but I'm going to use that to match up where it was spot welded and drill these holes in this one, get that tacked in, and then clean that up where I painted all that and start getting tack welds in. Like I said, I'll fit up the outer rocker before I put the inner rocker in. See how it all fits before I go ahead and weld it all on. This truck is not in bad shape. A lot better than the last one I did. Last one could have used part of the floorboard, part of this strip. This strip is still solid. The other one, these were just literally gone. There wasn't anything there. And that's where the plastic part of the interior snaps into, so this one's not going to be getting the interior back in it, just a dash and a seat. And then it's gonna be used for truck pulling. Interior is pretty stripped out of it right now. Just got a little more to do on the dash and get some more of that wiring sorted. And then the rockers, get one cab corner there and a rocker. This one's been cut already, getting it ready to fit up. And then the other side when I get to it. But I went through and painted this with basically the same automotive black, base coat, clear coat with a primer, self-etching primer. Sanded it all down, got rid of the black that's original, comes with the material or the parts, because they don't, some of them you're not supposed to paint over, some of them you can use it, they all come from China, so who knows what paint they're using. And then I have a hood project after this, after I get the cab done, and then the box will be the final, getting that all laid out. If I get everything done before the end of winter, like spring, I'll be able to paint it. Now the box is going to probably come apart and have a custom built framework for it, because you're only using the sides, and then tin it off on the inside to lighten it up. So that's going to be another interesting deal. Fenders on the 06 truck. Yeah, if you could go down south and just buy that section of it and replace that. The other one is more, the other one's got rot all the way up into the outside of it, so right down there. So that has to have inner and outer both right there. The new fenders, they are so flimsy and you just lean against it and it's got a dent in it, compared to the old fenders. The top part up there just floats back and forth. This one had a lot of dents. Whoever bought the fenders were just kind of throwing them around. The hood project, this is the tall hood for the 06, and what he wants to do is cut this cowl off, follow that line down, and set that on top of the other hood, and do that in a matte black in the center, the hood scoop matte black, and then do the rest of the truck in the color that he's going to go with. But right now, that's where I'm working on that rocker panel. If I get the inner rocker in, I'll videotape that done, and then once I get the inner rocker set in place and tacked in, fit the outer rocker, I'll show you what I'm doing with the inner rocker to the outer rocker and what I have to do to the outer rocker to get it to fit correctly. Alright, so the inner panel lined up pretty good in the front. Quarter panel, or the outer rocker, sticks out a little bit, but I got to get a clamp to clamp all that together and weld the inner part. The outer part right here, it's flush here, not here, and then on the back side it sticks out a little bit, and then it's got a big hole there, which this has got to go back and that's got to go forward. It's just not formed right. Everything lines up good. The back, I still have to get in here. I got to spread out the outer rocker panel, but it fits right in there. You can see the new one sitting there on the back side. New one on the back side. You can see the weld's got to be welded in, but as soon as all that's welded and the outer rocker's welded on, I can go ahead and start cutting the cab corner, get that fit in. All right, panel is welded in. It wasn't short up here, it came up to the right area. It's just that this panel has a little extra on it. It's shaped a little different, but this is the other panel that comes down over that inner rocker. That's all welded in, painted up, try to avoid rust, but yeah, it's looking really good. And in the rear, it still has that little bit of gap up in here. It's about a 1/4 inch, same place it was before, but now drill the holes and get the outer rocker set in. Had that outer rocker on there probably a little more than 8 times, getting it to fit just right. It is off a little bit, but nothing a torch and some heat can't form some metal and get it to line up right. Looking good though. A little colder out today. Fenders back on. Rockers all in. Lines up real nice. It might be off down on the lower gap. Looks pretty good. It's a little tight right there at the back, but what I found on the door here is a bunch of Bondo over rust. So who's to say this door is right, plus the fact that up on top of the door they don't line up. But that panel is welded in, ready for the cab corner. All the way down looks pretty good. All those little spots that were off like a quarter inch or whatnot, it just took a lot of adjusting and a little persuasion. There's some thick metal that they have for them rocker panels. It's really a lot different than what the fenders are. Fenders are so lightweight, there's really nothing there. Passenger side underway. A little bit more metal on the passenger side than there was the driver's side. Being that the driver's side is in the center of the road, it gets all the salt and crap. But working on that plate right there, getting it bent out of the way to get the inner rocker off. Made one cut back here because this is all got to be. Can't use the spot weld cutter down under there because there's not enough room to get the drill in, so just use the die grinder and the wheel around it, get them out of there. This one I cut a lot lower, so should fit up a little bit different. I noticed this rocker, inner rocker, is right up against the body. Getting a little cold out in the garage here. Winter's on its way, got the propane heater going. Remove some oxygen from the air. Of course, there's no insulation in here, and I don't spend a whole lot of time out here in the garage anyways with the propane. A couple hours and I'm in. Alright, I removed. Inner rocker's gone. Started priming them up. I'm just going to hit that with black paint after that. And this one fits in really nice. Just a little less rust on this side. Definitely nice. And so burnt out from drilling holes. So, and that's the process of what's going on. Drill the pilot hole, drill the other holes to another size, and then finish off with a close to a 3/8. Get all the plug welds in it. Same thing's got to be done on that panel once it gets fit on, just like the other side. But that's where she is right now. It'll take me a while to get the holes in and get everything fit up again and get ready to weld it up. Hopefully have the inner rocker in today. The outer's going to get done today. Alright, one more panel to weld up. Up there in the front where that's the overlay. That's the one that comes from over from the top. Whatever, it must be the inner panel that goes over the inner rocker panel, but the inner rocker panel is all welded in. And then as soon as I get that welded and recovered with paint, start fitting up the outer rocker, get it in. Yeah, this one is like butted up where the other one was at a 1/4 inch off factory. So they don't always put them 100%. This one actually fit better than the driver's side, which is weird, but this panel just went in perfectly, lined up. We'll see how it is when the outer rocker panel gets put in, how it lines up to that on the bottom, whether it's in or out. With the other one, most of it lined up perfectly, and then up toward the front, I had to bend it a little bit to get it to line up with the outer rocker where it wanted to sit. But little by little, just welding in panels, and that's the most I want to do is weld in the panels. If I had someone else to do the body work or other people to do the body work and paint, I would do it, but body work is not my thing. I don't have the touch anymore. It's like, yeah, if you want it straight, don't come to me. Removing the dash on an 06 Chevy. This pops out, electrical panel, that just clips in, bottom and top. I took these two nuts off, but I find that this aluminum bracket in the back, there's 3 bolts, one there, and one hiding behind the dash back in there. So I'm trying to remember how I took this apart. It's been a while. Don't want to mess with that airbag, but this has got hidden screws down in here. Probably was something along the side here. I know this panel, this thing here, there's just, you got to get in here to push 2 buttons on the side to pull that handle out. That's all video on YouTube. Yeah, and the rest of it's just bezel on that part, and then down under here is a metal tube that runs all the way across, attached. I guess that's not an aluminum bracket back there, that's a metal bracket for that tube. That goes through there. Tube goes all the way across and it splits on the other side. So yeah, remove all your vents. And then down under there is a bar that goes down to the frame. That's what I want to get to. This side's the same way. I'm going to put these nuts on and see pretty much the same 3 bolts that hold that tube across. I'm gonna, let's see, I think I got 2 bolts to put back together up there for that bar. That bar just bolts to the floor right there. And then pop the steering column out, and I'm pretty sure this was, that goes inside there and goes all the way up like that and sits up under there. So that had to come out, and I got to drop, somehow get the steering column out of there. Got to figure that one out yet. Get the steering column out of there so I can drop the whole dash out in one piece. Is all I'm doing on this one. Is I'm taking all the heater core stuff out. Don't know about the e-brake yet. But yeah, this is all just screws and stuff that I've bagged up. Got rid of all the rest of the interior because this is all getting painted inside as a color change. So the doors are just sitting on there because of the rocker panels and cab corners all got replaced. That's all welded in. Just a lot of cleanup. Got to remove the cap from the frame and set up a jig for it to sit on so it can rotate so it can be painted. But I'm just trying to remember how I took all this stuff apart and what I actually took out of it. All this stuff in the front, brackets, there's only really, I think these bolts go in for the fender, one down on the bottom, and one up in the front. That's all it holds on a pulling truck. It won't go back on this frame. But all this stuff in the front, all the way across, gets cleaned off. Nothing left, all those holes got to be patched. Yeah, rocker panels and cab corners came out really nice. One project done. Now I got to move on to the box and the hood. Yeah, that's all got to be stripped out of the doors. This box, I got to remove the panels and build the frame on it. And I have the patch pieces to cure the usual Chevy rust, which this one isn't too bad because it's, I don't know, it's from Iowa, I guess. So, but yeah, the only thing we're using on this is the two box sides. I don't even think we're using the front panel. All that box, the rest of the box has got to be saved for different projects. The bed on this one's pretty beat up on the bottom, but that can all be pounded out or replaced. There's another box out in the back I gotta cut. I want to cut it somewhere in here, one of these or this, one or another, and then go straight across. What I need is that back panel and this upright for support, and then front I'm just going to build out of steel and then have two tubes underneath the box sides, which are beat up pretty good. They got to be straightened, but typical work truck. Tailgate goes away, and once everything is done, the front panel will be just a piece of tin with maybe an X across it, and then sheet metal the floor over the wheel wells and back, and possibly a sheet metal tailgate. So I removed the 3 bolts on the other side on that part of the dash, and it comes off. I removed these 2 bolts, but this whole aluminum plate on this side goes all the way around, all the way back, comes all the way up here, all the way up underneath the steering column, and there's 2 bolts there and one more back there, and yet it still goes until it gets to this body brace in the center, and that's all I can see of it. So I popped these off, got those off for the shift linkage, and then I followed the wiring. This goes into this block, which is connected to this piece of metal, so that might unplug on the other side. This one goes to a plug just underneath down in here, right here, this yellow one. And then these wires up here go over to this plug right in here. And I don't see any more wires coming out of that steering column. These 2 brackets are kind of loose. This one really isn't mounted to anything, and that just held that tin shield that goes in here. So I don't think I have to do anything with this wiring. I see, aha, these go back and plug into whatever that is on the shift lever right back there. So I gotta get back there and get that, figure out how to unplug that thing, and then drop the steering column down. Then I gotta figure out how to pull the steering column out of underneath there to get the whole steering column out so I can work on the dash. I don't think I have to do anything with the gas pedal because that's separate. I have the clutch install, and I don't know about this emergency brake mechanism here, but yeah, those bolts are out, but that bracket it's huge. It goes all the way up there, up into the dash, over across, underneath the steering column, down in front of the steering column. Yeah, get all that off, see where I'm at. Okay, notice something else. This switch I don't have to unplug because that stays with the steering column. This one I just undo those 2 tabs down there. This one with the 2 nuts removed there, there's 2 more bolts right up in there. So once that's off, that whole wiring harness comes out. This one over here, the 2 bolts that hold this bracket on also bolt to this metal bracket on the other side. Those 2 nuts are off where that plate goes. So I'd have to take those off in order to get this thing to drop out, but I don't think I need to take that out. So I'm gonna go ahead with this piece and then unplug this wiring and get this shift cable out of here and start unbolting the column. Remove the steering shaft, and then there's 3 nuts to remove that boot off the firewall so the steering column can come through. A little bit of a trick with all the wiring in there, but it comes through there. This aluminum bracket goes all the way from underneath this whole side here. There's one on the other side too, but then it goes all the way through. It's all the way down here, all the way up to the top. I don't know what else it incorporates back there, but I'm gonna have to get in there to find out what's holding it. But it goes all the way over past this connector here, which starts in with a pipe that goes across, and that must bolt up to that other aluminum bracket. Yeah, what an overkill of aluminum. This down in here, these 2 bolts kitty corner are 15 millimeter wrench, and the one up in the left corner, which really wouldn't have had to come out unless it's attached to something else on the back, that one was a 13 millimeter wrench socket, and then these 2 up here were 15 millimeter also. Now I got to go up on here and undo all those 10 millimeter bolts all the way across to the other side and see what else other than wiring and possibly the emergency brake, which isn't going to get used in this. I don't think the hood release would be attached to that, but I got to see. I don't know about these either, the pedals, but I got to go under there and find out, get all that undone up there, and then go under here and find out what's still connected. And I'm wondering, I don't know if there's a way that this plastic, oh, I'm sure there is, the plastic part of the dash with everything in it, you probably have to pull all that out, remove the whole plastic thing, and have just the tube and the aluminum piece up there. But I kind of want to do as little as possible to put it all back in here, because even if it's a pulling truck, it's still going to have the dash in it. That's about the only thing. Dash and a seat, that's probably about the only thing that's going to be in here. And then you get to looking and you find that aluminum bracket also comes up to here to the front of the windshield, and there's 2 bolts up there right in front of the heater duct on the driver's side, so you got to get those too. Got the 4 bolts out of the top, and it was still attached on this side. So these 2 bolts over here are for the side over here. The 2 diagonal bolts, that's the washer for the one, because the washer's still up on that one. This one didn't have any washer, but that's a smaller one. These 2 are for the steering column. These 4 back here are for the top of the dash up there next to those other ones, and the rest of the screws are all for the dash assembly. I try to remember what those 2 black ones are for, but find out on assembly. Oh, those go in there to that bracket. 4 nuts that go there, and then 2 that go right there. That's about it. So I'll get those other 2 bolts out of there, 15 millimeter, and see if the dash falls out, and then if I can get to the electrical stuff, start disconnecting electrical. All right, got a ground on each corner. I'm gonna put the nut back on, but I'm gonna remove the ground. So there's 2 wires going to one terminal on driver's side, and then I gotta figure out these wires that come in, because there's no disconnection point really. There's the fuse box has a bolt in it, comes apart, but I don't know if that's enough to disconnect everything. I know it's not for the passenger side. So on the passenger side, I have 3 wires, 2 terminals coming into that ground stud, and then from what I see, all the heater ductwork and all that stuff, even that ground terminal, if I go down here to that wiring that clips into the side here, and I remove these plugs, so I got to remember how this was. This is vertical. I already removed one out of, I think it was this one, but there's an orange, a gray, and then a big orange, and then this one over here. Yep, it was right in this top one over here. Disconnect those. That disconnects all the heater ductwork. Pretty much it's right now it's just sitting kind of on the heater ductwork. The whole dash is free, but I got to figure out the wiring, see if there's any more wiring through, and then the wiring on the left side, I have to get to that and make a video of that, because I am not going to remember this stuff. All this stuff in the back, that is all gone. As far as for pulling truck, you don't need any of the heater stuff. All you need is basically the dash hollowed out. So some of this, even this heating ductwork and stuff, that'll all be removed. Lighten it up. And that's the steering column where I unbolted it up in the front. Took that bolt out in front and removed the boot, and then slid this whole thing right through into the inside. This is where the, well, these are where the 2 bolts go, and then the other one was up in here, and then the other 2 bolts go down in there. This all unplugged normally. Got the other plugs all came disconnected. This didn't get unhooked because that switch stayed there, just the cable got removed. So this connector here was hanging down, that goes to the floor. Basically it's on the floor, and that runs through, there's electrical, sound system and stuff, but I think that actually goes over there. Oh no, it goes down under there. So this floor could be for, there's a ground in there. Pretty much no other connection over here. It's got to be over on the other side. The antenna runs through here. That's kind of, yeah, I'll have to disconnect that from the radio, because that antenna is not going back on, and that's messed up. And on this side, the wiring that goes to the 3rd brake light and whatever else up in the top, it might, that goes to the speakers. So that all comes through the roof. That comes down through, goes through the dash here, comes down here, down under here, goes, mounts there, goes across here, comes through there, right through here, comes down and plugs into that box. Right up in here. And I also found, I got to get the instrument panel out yet, because I think there's a harness that's back there where that green label is. That goes behind the instrument cluster. This I pulled out. This is the vent, cargo light, and headlights. That all unplugs out here, and it is attached here with probably a test plug that runs up into this main harness. So I got to get, this is disconnected now, I got to get this harness, and then all of these should unplug. Oh yeah, this one goes down here. So there's a yellow plug and a black plug that come up. Those will get disconnected. They come up here through this, through the back here. They come up there, up through here, and then they tie into that harness. So once I get this harness all pulled away, and I have to figure out what this harness is back here, that goes up to this plug. So I can disconnect that plug. That goes straight through underneath this ductwork here and goes back into the dash panel here, which will tie in. Well, that actually goes to the steering column, and one wire, blue wire, goes down. Can't even see it right now, but that'll all disconnect up here, so that won't have to move. That'll just disconnect right there, so I won't have to find that blue wire or anything like that. That probably all goes back into this harness down further. So that's my next step, is getting this all disconnected, all those wires up there, get that all separated. These plugs down here in the bottom, the yellow one and the black one, and then yeah, I got to take there's 4 screws that hold this whole, it's probably the body control module. I got to take those 4 screws out. This will drop down. This plug will actually fall out because I can't do it right now because that aluminum is in the way, maybe. But yeah, I'll take that all out and get that out, drop that whole thing down, and then get this. I'll take the instrument cluster out. There's, looks like there's 4 screws that hold it on, and see what's behind that. Oh, I may have to take out the radio and the heater system to unplug those from all that too. That harness probably goes straight through, plugs into this, and plugs into this here, and then there's more stuff over here for the airbag and stuff like that. I'll probably have to just, so I'll probably have to tear all that out, and then it's all got to be reassembled with half of it. You don't need it all. On the front edge along here, from this higher point to the other side, is 63 7/8. I haven't measured the bottom yet, but I really don't think I need to. As long as I don't remove this front panel, all this will stay intact. So to make this frame, I know I have to use, out of the other truck, I have to use these back panels, sections of them. On the rear, I measured right above this panel across, comes out to 61 7/8. Then if you measure from here across, no different than the bottom across, this one comes out to 60 1/4. But yeah, I'm just doing that so I make sure that when I cut it out of the other truck is the same, because I'm going to weld the tubing off of this piece all the way up, and then that goes down with the tubing. It'll go across where the top edge is. It's 1.5 inch by 1, and it'll be the same thing on that. And then I'm going a tube part way up, and I kind of got to go around the wheel well a little bit. So I got to make all that up, and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do for cross pieces on the rest of it up there to make it rigid, what size I'm going with. I'm figuring lightweight. Could do it in aluminum, but that is a major pain. So I'm thinking 2 inch by 1 by 2, 14 gauge, and then on the front piece there, that is a piece of 1.5. I gotta double check that, but that should be 1.5 inch across there, so I don't need a whole lot of that. But I'm gonna get a full length because I may be using the 1.5 to do cross members under there. Not sure yet. What I find on the electrical, this is the electrical that goes all the way across to the other side. It goes up here, ties to that tube, goes across. There's one wire here that goes to the, oh, that goes to the airbag. So that's a yellow plug right up in there. And then there's should be another wire that goes to the passenger arm. Yeah, this one right here for the airbag. And then the radial, the heater is here. These two are the heater controls, and the radio's up here. You would think that if you see all the way up in there, this plastic piece right here separates with 4 screws, one in each corner, and you could pull this whole stereo and everything out at once. Of course you couldn't, you probably can't get to the wires to unplug them, but they make that removable. But if you look back there, there's 2 rivets back there. That's riveted to a piece of metal, so you'd have to take out, well, I guess 1 screw down here, but you still can't pull it out because you got that big metal bracket on the back. So the whole reason of putting 4 screws in there is kind of stupid. Missed one wire here. This one right here goes down right there to the harness through this tunnel work here. It's funny how they tape this stuff off. It's like they half taped it. It's not even fully wrapped around it. Just pull the tape right off. But this goes up into the dash for the sensor. Goes up there and sits in the center and just pops in. Almost forgot about that one. Don't see it until you get in here. Yeah, I got this wiring. I got to disconnect this airbag and then undo it back here to one of them Christmas tree plugs. Get that out, take it all the way over to the other side, and then start pulling stuff through the other side. The instrument cluster that comes up through here and then cuts down into there, right on the other side of that tube, and that goes right up to the little light on it. Yeah, that comes down right there and it goes back there, and once again taped on. Same I found with this harness back here, is just wrapped with tape around that plastic. Decided to, since this plenum's coming out anyways, I removed this one right here. Is a bolt underneath right there, and then there's this hose just attaches to this up here, and then down in here there's another bolt, and then that one just connects the 2 metal pieces to that side. There's a middle connector. Once I get that out, I'm hoping that I can put this metal structure back in, because it's kind of a dash support. But to get the wiring out, I'm like buried underneath that plenum, and I'm just going to get rid of it since it's coming out anyways. This plenum also had a screw here, all the same screws too. One here that goes to that bracket, one up here, one over here, and there was one up in the front of this. So you had this one, all the way through. Got that bracket assembly out of there. Now you can see the entire wire harness all the way across. All right, so this fuse block had 2 tabs, one there and one up here, right there and right there. You just pull the tabs, pull it this way out, and then turn it and shove it back through, and that falls out. I still have to get the trailer brake unhooked, but I found something else that I didn't really understand, you get your shift cable that comes up to the column, and then back there, straight above the shift column, you see a little tab sticking through. But this sticks into this aluminum housing back here and is bent over. This is like, and it's wrapped around that shift cable. I don't know if it's holding the shift cable. It must attach to this bracket here. The way they got it looped through, it just supports the shift cable down there. So I got to pull that out yet, and then everything else will fall right off. All the wiring's back there. They give you that little hole back there where the wiring comes in. The old school stuff bolted right there, but instead they bring it in and they bolt it on this block, which is fine because it's, you can separate that, you can get it through the hole, but then a harness comes up, and then this one comes over, that goes to that whole string of mess, but then this block would unbolt, that would go through, and then you have to unplug all these wires on this box and take it off of all their Christmas tree thingies to get it off that plastic, and string all that through that firewall. Other than that, all that stuff is gone, no more. And then I don't think I'm going to remove this tape up here because, or foam for the dash pad. I think I'm just going to tape around that and paint what I can and get this part off, because this is all glued down. I'm not going to pull up and try to re-glue that just to paint something that's, you're never going to see it. So everything else in here you'll see.